I am currently sat in a little room in my house in the Lake District. So I live in Kendal and I've been up in the lakes for sort of 22 years. I think I've nearly lived in the north longer than I've lived in the south. So this is definitely home here. I live with my dog and I have a partner, and I do a whole mixture of things work-wise, which includes the outdoor work that I do, but I'm also a gardener. So I look after a beautiful old garden on the shore of Windermere, and it's a great spot to really sort of get my hands into the soil and really connect with the plants and be outdoors in a totally different way to like the, I guess, more adventure side of things. Yeah, I'm in my mid 40s and yeah, really enjoying life at the moment. Yeah, definitely. And I have a horse that lives over in Little Langdale, so on my friend's farm. So I'm quite animal orientated as well. So my work involves sort of setting up. I work for Fjallraven as a freelance, and manage and well set up and manage a really great trekking event for them, which is an annual trek called the Fjallraven Classic, and ours is obviously the UK one. But those classic treks happen all over the world. So I feel really privileged to be working with Fjallraven. I've worked with them for about sort of 6 years, and I also am doing a master's at the moment in outdoor and experiential learning, which is like nature connection sort of stuff. And what else am I doing? I'm sort of involved in a charity called the Big Hoof, which I can tell you a bit about. And yeah, and I set up the Women's Adventure Academy a few years ago with a friend, and we ran it for Fjallraven, and together with Anna Blackwell, who you may or may not know, who's a good friend of mine. And Anna moved down to Dorset, and I stayed. Obviously, I live in the lakes, so I'm now running that again and doing that on my own. But it's quite an exciting, quite a big step for me. Still, sort of chat with Anna about it a bit, but yeah, really enjoying setting that up and getting that off the ground, really. So yeah, it's a real mixture of things in my work and life that go on, I guess.
Oh, I love it. And I love the fact that you introduced your dog first before your partner.
I love them both. I love them both. I know that's terrible, isn't it? I
Yeah.
guess no, but we make a really nice little family. I have a dog called Moose, and he has Moose's son, who is called Tang. So we've just been on a trip. We just got back from the Cairngorms, and all five of us went up. So it was me and Rich and Moose and Tang and Mary, my pony. And we've just done like a 6-day journey around the Cairngorm Mountains. And we, yeah, so when we're all together, it's pretty funny, really. There's a lot of hair between everyone, like quite a furry crowd. But we're yeah, it's been a really lovely journey and stuff. So excited to be sharing that on Instagram quite soon, really.
Have you always been sporty and outdoorsy? Like, has that been something that you've grown up with?
Yeah, I think so. It was definitely like sport in a sense. I guess I was into cross country running and sort of did quite a lot of sport. I've got two older brothers, and one of my middle brother, if you like, Phil, was really sporty. So I was quite influenced by him, I think. But the horse riding side of things was like really where I went in my sort of teens and stuff, and went in that direction, but which he didn't do. But yeah, definitely, and always outside. I think ever since I was a kid, I was just, I don't know, it was just always in the garden. We had quite a sort of big sort of garden and at home, and it was quite rough and wild in places. And I just really loved it. And it's funny, I talk about this with the Women's Academy, that I think that you sort of explore places that are within your comfort zone, and then you grow out from there. And I think for me it was like, being in the garden and then going over the fence at the back of the garden into the what we called the back field, which was just a bit of wild sort of like overgrown land that was just kind of, yeah, sort of no man's land, really. And then into the field, and then the canal, and then the canal woods, and then sort of this was in the Chilterns, so, and then sort of Wendover Woods and the Chiltern Hills, and it just kind of expanded all the time, I suppose. And as I got older, I was always desperate to take the dogs for a walk so that I could get out and go out on my own and stuff. So yeah, just always just kind of wanting to explore over the next hill, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, the outdoors is big was and the natural world, plants, insects, birds and mammals and stuff were always something that I was always, like always taking note of and thinking that was normal actually. But I think sort of realize as you get older that actually not everyone does all that stuff, and it's very, very much a part of who I am, I suppose. And I was probably like tracking animals as a kid, and like using materials to build different materials to build dens and growing vegetables in a sort of pretty, rough sort of way. And yeah, so just yeah, always outside, I think. My home life growing up was quite hectic, and my there's quite a lot of like poor mental health in the house, and my parents broke up when I was like 13, and then when I was and the same year actually that my parents broke up, we had a big house fire, and our family home, sort of burnt down, and so I had all this really massive stuff happen at the age of like 12, 13, just heading into my teens, really. And I think the outdoors was like, and particularly horse riding, because it's so immersive. You have to be so present with horses and being out and doing all the stuff that you do with them. But it was a total escape for me. So I think the passion was already definitely there. And just from sort of being around, in the garden at home and all that stuff that I've just said. But it was really, it was a total escape place for me when I was sort of 13 to, I don't know, yeah, to uni really. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it was the only constant, I would say, the most consistent thing in my life was the natural world. And so I really, I just grew closer to that than anything else really. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life, I guess. Yeah.
And was it almost like quite in terms of almost like, was it like, Duke of Edinburgh, then going to university and joining like the mountaineering club? Was there almost steps to the journey of getting to work in the outdoors and to get your like mountain
Yeah.
leader qualification? What did that journey look like for you?
Yeah. So well, the horse riding was like actually it was through horse riding that I learned navigation. I'm not into I wasn't in the pony club or anything like that. You can probably tell from some of the things I'm saying. I was kind of a bit of a not a low well yeah a bit of a loner. I guess I was quite independent in my I think I've always been really independent since I was a little kid, and but wanting to get out on my own to do things and be able to do things on my own. And so yeah, so that I think that my journey wasn't so much Duke of Edinburgh's at all, although I do think it's absolutely brilliant. My brother did it, and I was always really jealous of him, but they didn't really run it at my school very well. So didn't get into that, but definitely learning to navigate around the woodlands where I was horse riding. And my mum, I wanted to go off at a really early age on my own. And my mum's friends were all like, you can't let her do that. That's really dangerous riding on her own on a pony and stuff. And I just add that I wasn't doing horse stuff in a like fancy way. It was all really on a shoestring, and I just had I had a pony on loan, and we didn't buy a horse or anything, just because it's all so expensive. But I was able to do it on a real shoestring at this particular like stables and stuff, and it was just at the foot of the Wendover Woods. So my mum was like insistent that I learned to navigate so that I didn't get lost on my own in the woods, because she knew if she didn't say yes, I'd probably just go anyway and just say sorry afterwards. So, which I think was sort of my way a little bit then. So definitely learned to map read quite early on, and really learned to love maps actually, and just like exploring it. And it was all, it was just like, oh, where could I go? And always wanted to go over into the next valley. And I had a real dream as a kid to like, I was wanting to do a journey on horseback where I could just keep going and going and going, and not having to go back to the stables every night or whatever. So that really sowed a seed. But I think it was when I went to uni, I gave up horse riding almost overnight, actually. The woman I loaned a horse off took her horse away and moved it to another place. And I just kind of like moved on quite suddenly, and I went to uni, and I got into rock climbing at university, and it was a really lovely world to drop into, because I'd always climbed trees a lot as a kid, so it felt quite natural to the movement and all that side of things. It was outside, but the people were so nice, and I think that was a really big step. The horse riding world can be really, it's pretty harsh actually, and very judgmental, and people would, there's a lot of money, and I don't know, like a lot of status and stuff, and I was never into it for that, but the climbing world was just so friendly, so that really got me into that side of things. And then I met some really great people through rock climbing, and then went out to mountains a bit and climbed in North Wales, and then I moved down to Dorset to go to university after a first attempt at uni, and then like stopped and then went back again. And when I was in Dorset, I really, yeah, I really got into that sort of sport climbing and stuff, and then started to think about doing my MO and all that sort of thing, my mountain leader. But a really big part for me was I went traveling to New Zealand, and that was the first time sort of, again, I went on my own to New Zealand at 18. And then I did a trek, which was all like wild camping. And that was just like, I was just like a dream come true, really. So I think that was like in a gap year. And then from there, yeah, moving up to the Lake District when I was just finished uni. I just graduated, and I did an apprenticeship at a place called the Brayley Trust. And I really wanted to work with young people, disadvantaged young people, and in the outdoors, and sort of using the outdoors, which I probably come back to that word using. Yeah, really using the outdoors to help young people to sort of grow in confidence and self-esteem, and and all that side of like personal development. So the Brado Trust was an amazing apprenticeship, and it was like being put into a bag of compost for a year. I just grew so much and learned so much. And there was a lot of ups and downs in that year, but it was definitely tough at times being in the outdoor sort of world in that sense. I'd done a few summer seasons at an outdoor centres like down in Dorset, but yeah, being in the real thick of it, and but surrounded by brilliant people who were really keen to share their knowledge and stuff. And as an apprentice, people like, they know that you're like, you want to learn this stuff, so people were really giving with their, with the information and the knowledge, and sharing experience and skills and stuff. So really being on that apprenticeship was just brilliant, actually. Yeah. So that, yeah, and that got me in, and then I eventually did my assessment at the end of that year, and that was, yeah, it was a big moment. I was with my fellow apprentice called Kat, and we drove home shouting out the window, "We're Anna, we're mountain leaders!" out the window, like a couple of idiots. But we were so chuffed, and I couldn't believe I was like living in the Lake District, and things were sort of starting to take a shape that I had really wanted them to, and couldn't believe it was like sort of happening. I remember sitting on the toilet when I was a kid in the upstairs loo, and there was like National Geographic posters on the walls, and like things about nature and all that stuff. And I remember just sitting on the loo, and I was thinking, it was a really like really early memory, and just being like, I really want to have adventures in my life. I want to see these things, and like pictures of wildlife and lions, and these far-flung places. And yeah, and I think, yeah, I think you have these seeds planted very early on, and you have these moments. But yeah, and then it all started to happen a bit really up here, and it's really become my home now, and I really feel part of the community here, and yeah, I just love being in the mountains and stuff. So yeah, that's how I got in, I would say. But I think there was definitely a time when I was like, I got back from New Zealand, and I was like, I really want to do this stuff, but I just don't know where to start. And I did go off with a group at one point, but I don't know, it was kind of like, it didn't feel quite the right vibe for me. And but then when I met at some sort of similar age, sort of similar outlook, sort of outdoor instructors, that really changed things a lot, really.
What does adventure look like for you? I mean, is that heading off to like far-flung places? Is it staying sort of more local, or heading to Scotland? Is it through hikes? Is it solo? Is it groups? Like,
Yeah, I mean, adventure. I mean, we've been like doing assignments and sort of reading around, what is adventure, and it's totally different for everyone. Parenthood could be an adventure, or like moving to a new place. That's all an adventure, isn't it? And like even like a creative adventure and stuff. So adventure can be anything, and I think, but to me, I feel like it's definitely become something that I feel is slow, and it's very much in tune with the natural world. And as I said earlier, there's this like using the outdoors, which was what I really felt when, particularly when I was at Brave and sort of work with young people. It's all about using the outdoors to get, either get your kicks or, get confidence or get this. And it's all about taking. And it's like, I was like out with people mountain biking. I did quite a lot of mountain biking in those days. And like people didn't know what an oak or an ash tree looked like, or whether, who knows what that tree is. It's just a tree. And that's fine. I mean, like not everyone wants to know, but I was like, I feel like I know these plants and I want to know more about them and their uses and what creatures, you know, s- are, are are a part of this ecosystem and stuff. So that's quite a big part of it, and it's definitely about going slow. I love working for Far Women because it's not a competitive brand at all. It really is about immersion in the natural world in whatever way that is for you. But it's not. There's nothing competitive, and it was like up in the lakes here. There's a lot of people that like really smashing it in the mountains, and they're going as fast as they can and as hard as they can and as high as they can. And I remember being in a kit store at work, and we had to do a mixture of facilitation with groups and all the soft skill stuff, which I really enjoyed. But also, we had to do our time in the kit store and doing all the tech side of things, so the technical skills and setting up ropes and getting all the kit right for adventures that people were going on with their groups. And that kit store was just off. I used to hate it, and it was just like it was full of men who, bless them, they like nice guys, but oh my God, like this atmosphere of like testosterone and like competition and like how hard did you? So, the question on a Monday morning would be like, oh, what did you do on the weekend? And you felt like if you were saying like, oh, I just chilled out actually and I did a little walk up Loughrig or whatever, it just wasn't good enough. And it was like really, it has to be like, yeah, I did something really gnarly and it was really hard and it was really difficult and I really suffered. And then that's like somehow that was something that would be celebrated. It's like, oh, they did this really hard thing. And I just like, I remember feeling so out of place. I was like, it's just, I don't know what it is. But it took me quite a while to really work out what it is for me. And for me, it is much more about moving slowly, more gently, and taking time to sit by a river and, and notice what is going on in that place. Or, like, I don't know, looking at lichen or taking a diversion to go and explore a little animal track and see what is down there. Or I don't know, it sounds a bit whimsical, really, but that's what I really enjoy. And sitting in the sunshine and having a nap on the side of a hill, whilst you're out doing an expedition and or whatever is great. And I think that really got compounded when in 2018 I'd been working with a young person called Adam, and Adam is like he was brilliant. He was a massive punk, and he was like going through a bit of a tough time, but he loved the outdoors. So we were doing some like quite cool work together, and sort of helping him with his, where he was going in his life and stuff. And he turned around to me at one point and said, "You do all this stuff with us, Claire, but like, what do you really want to do?" And I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Normally it's the other way round, the coaching sort of questions. But I was like, do you know, Adam, I would absolutely love to ride a horse around the Lake District. That's what I'd love to do because it's bringing together like my old love of horses and riding, but also the mountain side of things as well. So, and he was like, well, you should bloody do it. And he really gave me a kick in the pants actually. And it really did me a lot of good. And that was it. I was like, right, next May, I'm going to try and go next May for a whole month around the Lake District on a horse. And I had no horse and I knew no people in the Lake District with a horse. But somehow I set myself that challenge in like the October. I think I was doing a leadership program at the Eden Project, and it was like we were all set, goal setting and stuff. But I was like, right, I'm going to do it next May. And like think when you set your intentions like really clearly and it's something that really is close to your heart, like you can really move mountains to get out and do your thing. That journey was like the most serendipitous moment of my life. Like things just came together, and I spoke, I had to do a lot of research and a lot of chatting to people and finding out, and managed to borrow a pony off someone who had a whole herd of fell ponies. And me and my dog Finn at the time, my old dog, and this pony Pansy, set off around the Lake District for a whole month of May. And May is just like my favorite time of year. And we had wall to wall sunshine, and well, bar a couple of days, and just met so many incredible farmers and local people and craftspeople, and, just lovely local people around the lakes, and had this amazing adventure. But it was super slow. And some days we did 5 kilometers and some days we did 15, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered other than, like, is this a beautiful place to stay? Are we having a nice time? Yeah, great. And there was no like pushing the boundaries. It was pushing the boundaries in a kind of slow and different way to, the culture that I'd sort of really been immersed in other places and stuff. So that was a really special moment, and that stuck with me. That was a real shifting point for me in terms of, like, God, let's really share this, that it's okay to go slow in the outdoors, and it's really okay to just have a really beautiful time. It doesn't matter if you're climbing hard or running fast, or just like, are you having a good time? Like, that's really important. And are you treading gently on this earth as you go? I guess that gives you a bit of an insight into my style of adventure.
Yeah. When did you start sharing, I suppose, your style of adventure with the Women's Adventure Academy? I'd love to hear more about how that all came together.
So after that journey that I did around the lakes on horseback, I got in touch with put in a cheeky ask at Foulraven. I was like, "Look, I'd love to make a film about this stuff. I think it seems to like resonate with people, and I wonder if we could make a film about it. It would look really cool." And anyway, one thing led to another, and I ended up collaborating with Fairhaven to make this film called Thriving, which was another horseback journey around the lakes talking to regenerative farmers. That was like one of the first things I did with Fjallraven. And then it's really evolved over time. I've done all sorts with them now, not just as an ambassador, if you like, but now employed, running this Fjallraven Classic for them. So I think it was through one of the lasses that works for Fjallraven as well, Georgie. She was like, she'd been working with them for years, but she just didn't know how to be in the hills. And she was really frustrated by it, because she was like, "God, I work for this company and I just don't know." And Georgie's a real girly girl. She has lovely nails, and she's always really well made up. But she's she's actually really tough. And she is like really, really keen to get out on the hills. And she was just like, "I want to run a women's academy." So it was kind of came from Georgie. And then Anna and I, who were friends with her as well, we were just like, "Well, let's do it." So that was in 2022. And we just had, it was one of the nicest, most fun, most rewarding bits of work I've ever done. And we did 3 weekends over 3 months with 7 women. And it was the same 7 women on each weekend. And we did everything from like planning and preparation to navigation to how to pack your bag, how to poo in the woods, like how to, like all of it. And over sort of these 3 separate weekends, and all in different gorgeous parts of the Lake District. And those women, I mean, they became so tight as a group, and we learned so much from running that program. We had a brilliant time, and what the women went off and to do afterwards has just been amazing, like in terms of their confidence. And I would say that program was 80% about confidence and 20% about skills, because that is what a lot of women, I think, feel like. They're like, "Oh no, I can't do it." But actually, like, that really capable women, and who are just keen as mustard to be able to plan their own trips and do their own trips without following someone else around, whether that be a guide or a partner, or, just not have the confidence. And by the end, they all went off and did a solo camp out. And, it was, I don't know, it sounds a bit extreme, but like it was really life changing for them. And we had a grandmother on that program. We had some, like, someone who was like just like 19, 20, and then like all the way and all, yeah, like a real great mix of women. And so it was just like, this is so special. We've got to do this again. But then, like I say, Anna moved down to Dorset and she was like, I don't think I can do it, but I would really love to, but I don't think I can do it. It's been really special. She took some great photos and all that stuff as she does. But we had a great time. So I was like, well, we'll see. And then it just took me a while to pluck up the confidence to go, okay, I'm going to run it and I'm going to run it on my own. And, and Anna was like, yeah, brilliant, go for it. And, was like very much in support of that. And that's what I've started doing. So I've just started the first Women's Adventure Academy since that first one. And so we've got 5 women on that program now, and we're just about to go into the second weekend of that, which will be focusing largely on nailing the navigation. So yeah, and already getting some great feedback. So it's just brilliant. I absolutely love it.
I think it's amazing what you're doing. I think, just giving women the opportunity to get out in the outdoors in like a safe environment where they can develop these skills, where they can ask the questions which may seem like stupid questions, but as we
Yeah,
all know, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
sometimes you just don't know what you don't know until somebody
yeah,
like explains it to you in a nice sort of safe environment. But
yeah, definitely.
I want to jump back to that word confidence as well, because it's obviously it's so you've got confidence in the outdoors, but then even for you to say I had to pluck up the confidence to start the Women's Adventure Academy sort of by yourself
Mm.
this time, and I suppose just from what made you pluck up the courage to take that step? Like, how did you build that confidence in yourself?
It's so much about the people around you. And I have the most supportive partner actually, and I've been single a lot, and and I have, yeah, had relationships where there wasn't that support as well, and that's really hard. But I think so. I mean, Rich is so supportive of this as well. But then I think the feedback you get from, you've got to remember the feedback you get from people, and the women that had done the first program, it's like they were just always right there going like, you've got to do it again. And but I think one of the things that I find really helpful is setting a date. And there's a saying which is, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I'll try. It's an idea without a date is just a dream. And that always really resonates for me. And I was just like, right, I'm going to set dates for these 3 weekends. And it was all a bit last minute. It was just ahead of Kendal Mountain Festival, which I'm at every year in various capacities. And I was like, right. And I got a postcard made, and someone I know did the illustrations. And then it just kind of like, it all sort of, it definitely hasn't been like, oh, and it all just magically came together. It's been hard work at times to get these things sorted, especially when you're juggling like work and this masters and all that stuff. It's like been a bit full on, but I think setting the date is just like a key thing. And that was the same with the horseback adventure. And I think, the first one I did, I think I was like, right, May. May is the best month of the year, in my opinion. I love it. I'm going to do, you only get a limited number of May mornings in your life when everything is just singing and dancing. And so I was like, really, going to make it May. And the first, I literally left on the first and came back on the 31st. And I think similarly with the Women's Academy, I was like, right, these are the weekends, isn't it? One in April, one in May, and then one at the beginning of July. And then I kind of had done that. Is a big, yeah, it's a big part of it. I think is just setting a date, and then you give yourself a deadline. And yeah, I mean, I'm like terrible. I've got like, everyone's finding out a lot of people are finding out about their neuro distinctions, and I've definitely got ADHD, probably a little bit autistic, and like I definitely have to work with what I've got. It's quite challenging doing the admin on these things, but yeah, it's trying to work to your strengths a bit really. And but yeah, setting the date is good.
Because sometimes things don't have to be crazy and ridiculous. It almost just has to be that simple, as in like set the date, lock it in, put it in your diary, and then you can work backwards. And I know for me that once I've got a date locked in, or like when it's the start of an adventure or challenge, it changes everything for me, because in terms of like, well, I know I've got to taper then, so, and I've got this this wedding or this party happening there, so I've got to factor that in. But actually, I'm going to have like 50 days. Okay, how am I going to fit my training in? And then when it's suddenly like, when it's sort of broken down, it's like, fitting in around like work and, what else it's on. It's like, right, I actually only have those 2 days to do the distances that I need to do or the workout I need to do. And for me, it's like, well, I've committed now, so I lock in and I just go and
Yeah,
do it. But yeah, simple tips are sometimes often the best, and then you've got that sort of like accountability because it's happening then, and you need to get
yeah,
yourself prepared.
definitely. And that definitely happened like this this last week that I've been out in the Cairngorms with, all the animals. And I mean, it took such a lot of prep to get that. So it's quite a big deal to move a horse all the way, 5 hours north of here, and and all. I don't have a towing vehicle, and blah blah blah. And I didn't have I didn't have the right kit, and it all came, did eventually come together. But there's a bit of sometimes you're at just before it all happens, you're like, my God, this is so much work. Is it even worth it? And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. Is it worth it? And then you get there and you do it, and you're like, It was 100% worth it." And I think by putting that date in, you're putting yourself under a bit of pressure, and just to pull those things in and stuff. So, but yeah, definitely experienced that before this last trip, actually.
You mentioned it briefly about the film that you created called Thriving,
Yeah,
a journey into regenerative farming.
yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Like, how long's the film? Did it get shown at Kendall? What was the story that you were telling?
So the first journey was completely like it was just me, and I didn't, it was that I was completely on my own doing that trip, and it was for nothing other than my own, like, living this dream that I'd had. But then because I think the BBC came out and made a 1 minute film of that journey because they got wind of it through someone I knew and who worked for the local radio. And so this lass came out and she's really nice, and she made this 1 minute video and it went viral, and like 2.5 million people watched this video. And I was like, God, there's something in this that really resonates with people. And because on this trip you're out in like the wilds as much as the Lake District is wild, but you're out in the environment for a whole month experiencing it. And there was a moment on the side of Kentmere Fells, actually. And I was right at the top, and Kentmere's great, don't get me wrong. And actually, there's loads of regenerative stuff going on there, which is brilliant. But there was a moment, and this is 2018, where I was sat on this hillside with my horse, my dog, just thinking, it's so quiet. There's nothing going on up here. And it's not like, I couldn't hear skylarks. I couldn't hear, there weren't insects. There weren't, it just seemed like, George Monbiot, love him or hate him, but he made a comment a long time ago saying, which is quite controversial, saying that, the Lake District is like an ecological desert. And it really ruffled a few feathers because people are like, God, the Lake District is beautiful and it's full of nature and it's full of wildlife. And actually, it's really barren in places, and there's a lot of work to do. And I've sat, and it really just hit me in this moment anyway, sat on the hill. And I was like, there's like all these little projects going on. Like there's an RSPB thing here, and there's a Friends of the Lake District woodland there. But like, what are the farmers doing? And then on this journey, I met loads of farmers who were quite sort of into producing food, but actually quietly would like talk to me about like, oh yeah, there's like, I know that there's Curlew's nest here, and I know there's a barn owl in that place, and they'll know where things are. And actually, these lovely conversations that ended up happening just totally by chance, or my horse lost a shoe at one point, so I had to stop at a farm to get her reshod, and I ended up round the kitchen table with this guy called Alistair, and he was like quite a gruff farmer, and he really opened up to me about what he felt about the land that he manages and owns and all that sort of thing. So, and it just kind of triggered something, those two sort of things, like really. I was like, there's farmers that who are getting such a hard time for just battering wildlife on their land, but actually there's farmers who are doing really good stuff. So rather than spending time bashing the farmers who are not doing anything, why don't we start celebrating the farmers that are doing a lot and who really care what's on their land and about creating habitat? So that was my idea. And I was like, well, if people like this kind of journey, then why don't I do another journey? In brackets, a bit of an excuse to go out on another journey because I'd had such a good time. But also, like, to go and see these regenerative farmers who, like, not only are they producing food, they're creating habitats for wildlife. I mean, like, two of the most important things you can do for humankind at the moment. And yeah, it's pretty massive. And there they are, just getting on with their job, completely understated and just casually getting on with changing ecosystems and producing food. So I really wanted to do something about that. So Thriving was like a 40-minute film made by Land and Sky Media, who's sort of friends in Kendal. And it was premiered at Kendal Mountain Festival, which was really great. And then we took it around lots of other events locally to try and sort of like really have great conversations and have a panel of farmers, ecologists, and like our little team who made the film for like Q&As. And so yeah, we went, it was like the Royal Geographic Society showed it and did a panel with us. And gosh, it's a while ago now, I'm trying to think who else did, but there were lots of other organizations that showed it, and the National Trust had a hand in it as well. So who knows what impact it had, but regenerative farming just seemed to be growing in the Lake District and in other places as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's down to the film, but like hopefully it nudged things a little.
Absolutely. It will have nudged things. And it's almost coming back to that, like using the outdoors and, showing people how people are using the outdoors and the work that the farmers are doing, like you say, just, to grow the food and to protect the natural habitats, which is so, so
Mm,
important.
yeah.
What's going to be your next adventure, your next slow adventure? What's going to be the next challenge for you?
So I mentioned I work with a charity called the Big Hoof, and we are doing an 8-day journey across the Lake District for to raise money for a mental health charity called Growing Wells, which is in Cumbria. They grow fruit and vegetables and have volunteers and lots of people who benefit mentally in their mental health from being part of that. So we're doing a journey from Egremont in the northwest of Cumbria, coming right across the Lake District down to Sizer Castle, where we'll be finishing. So that's like an 8-day journey, which I'm really excited about. And beyond that, there is the adventure of finishing my master's. Different sort of adventure, probably miles more challenging to actually sit down and write and read.
Do you know what your topic's going to be?
For my dissertation,
Yeah.
yeah, it's coming together. It's going to be something to do with journeys, slow journeys, and it'll be definitely human nature relations oriented, I think. But it sounds very vague, so I hope my lecturers aren't listening. And and then we've got the classic running in September, so we've got that event to look forward to, which is it's a journey from Langdale in the lakes out to Muncaster Castle over 3 days. So yeah, so a few things in the pipeline. And hopefully we've just done, like I keep saying about this Cairngorm trip, we've kind of filmed bits of it. So hoping to have a bit of a film come out about that, but it, just fairly low key, with some beautiful music and stuff. So looking forward to sharing that hopefully soon. And more women's academies, I guess. So yeah, which is really exciting.
And Claire, how can people follow along with you? How can they connect with you? Where are you most active on social media?
Yeah, mainly on Instagram, and it is _ Clare Dyson, Claire without an I. And if anyone's interested in the Women's Academy, the website is just womensadventureacademy.com. So yeah, but Instagram is my main spot probably.
And Claire, I'd love for you to share your final words of advice, final words of wisdom for other women out there who do want to spend more time in outdoors, who want to thrive themselves, who want to go on a nice journey, on a slow adventure. Apart from just do it, what would you like to share?
Oh, set a date. Sorry, that's the
Yeah.
same one as before, but yeah, set aside the time, put a date in the diary and work towards it. And yeah, and also like reach out to other people, find some people that you can learn from as well, and whether that's joining a group, just to get started. I think yeah, finding your tribe a little bit is really important, and I think yeah, and that's a big part of it, I think. So yeah, you don't know don't know where it will lead you really, do you? But that's where people seem, I think we all start really.
I would agree. And to be honest, I like that. I like set the date, set the date. Let that be that mantra to you if you're listening. Well, if you're listening, I was going to say, let that be a mantra for you. Set the date, set the date, set the date, set the date, set the date. If you haven't set the date, set the date. Claire, thank you so much for setting the dates. Thank you so much for being proactive. Thank you so much for bringing back the Women's Adventure Academy. And just best of luck with the next adventure, the next film, and your masters, your dissertation. Best of luck with writing that.
Thank
And
you.
it'll be great to follow along with your slow adventures.
Brilliant. Thanks so much.
Hey, tribe. How are you all doing? I hope you're all keeping super well. It's Sarah Williams, the host of the Tough Girl podcast and the founder of Tough Girl Challenges. Just stopping by, as I always do at the end of the Tough Girl podcast episodes, just to say a quick hello, to thank you all for listening, to thank you for sharing the Tough Girl podcast, and just to give you a few shout outs and a few updates of what is going on. So I have just started the GR5, which is a 2,200 kilometer walking trail starting in the Hook of Holland, going all the way down through to Nice. I plan to do it in approximately 70 days. I will be sharing this journey on social media as I go, predominantly on Instagram and Facebook. If I get the time, I might do a few reels, but the likelihood isn't that's not going to happen. I just find it too challenging when I'm trying to film on a GoPro to create like YouTube vlogs and films for later on, which I will be doing. So after I finish the expedition, which I've planned to finish in October, I will start editing those vlogs and get them out on YouTube. But if you are wanting to watch some adventure videos, adventure vlogs, adventure films, then please do go check out the Tough Girl YouTube channel. There's more information there, or there's more films there on the GR10, the GR20, on the UK hikes from the coast to coast, the Wales Coast Path, the Southwest Coast Path. Plus, if you want further afield, there are vlogs from the Tararua Trail, the Appalachian Trail, cycling the Pacific Coast Highway. There is lots of fun, adventure content for you to fill your boots with. When I talked about the Tararua Trail, I did a solo reflections episode after the trail, and I think one of the things that I talked about on that episode was my love for Whittaker's the chocolate caramel chocolate bars. And I jokingly said during the episode, if anyone's ever in New Zealand, and you're coming back to the UK, or you just think, I've got some extra spare cash, buy a couple of bars, send me a DM and post me some chocolate from New Zealand, which I also realise is ridiculously expensive. So you don't need to do that. But I got a wonderful DM from a girl called Mia, whose dad had just been in New Zealand, called Paul, who also listened to the Tough Girl podcast and had listened to that episode and had decided to buy me 2 bars of this Whittaker's chocolate, which I was very, very grateful for. So Paul, thank you so much for not only listening to the Tough Girl podcast, but for also buying the chocolate and getting it to me. It went in the fridge, and I'd like to say that it lasted quite a while. I was planning to take it on the GR5 expedition. Unfortunately, it did not last that long, but I thoroughly enjoyed eating it when I was doing my editing, when I was lying in bed, working hard with this Whittaker's chocolate next to me to keep my energy levels up. So Paul, Mia, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you sending that through to me. It really made me smile. I sometimes forget some of the things that I have shared, especially in these ending clips. It's almost like a timestamp. So if you go back to the episodes in 2016, I'll probably be talking about Marathon Salves. In 2017, at the end of the episode, I'll probably be talking about the Appalachian Trail. Although now I'm just thinking, I wonder if I've always done endings. I don't know if I always have. I can't actually remember if I've always done like little endings like this. But I hope you enjoy my little ramblings on, my little updates. But it's just another way to connect with you, or give you the opportunity to listen. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You can just stop listening after the end of the interview, because that is why you're here, to listen to the incredible women sharing their stories. And over 850 women have shared their stories now on the Tough Girl podcast. Tough Girl podcast has been going for 11 years this year, which is amazing. I do just want to take a special moment to thank the incredible patrons whose monthly and annual support make the whole world of difference in allowing me to pay for the running costs of keeping the website playing for Auphonic and SoundCloud and all the things that go on behind the screens. It really does make a massive difference. So if you'd be interested in supporting the work that I do, then please do visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. But all that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all. Give it 110%. Get after it. Go for it. Believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.